So, what do we write about? I write about a lot of things, but one thing I write about is my cat, Shadow. Shadow is a very interesting cat. So I'm going to read a couple of poems about Shadow. The first one is called Amber Eyes. Shadow stares at me. His amber eyes burn into mine. A cat can see into your consciousness if you let him. Suddenly, he turns upside down, lying on his back, his tender underside exposed, vulnerable. I run my hand over curly belly fur, gentle and soft. I show him he can trust me. He eyes me with suspicion. His ears fold back. I know this could end in scratches. Stock still, my hand doesn't move. His motor starts, loud, regular. His pink, rough tongue finds my index finger, first licking, then gently fondling. He retreats from his earlier hostility, melts into his happy cat mode. His amber eyes close to slits. This is a later poem about Shadow. Shadow is really hard on me. He doesn't like me to write. So this is called Shadow Kills My Muse. Like spilled ink, Shadow overflows from my computer desk, head lolling down over the edge and rests on the keyboard. Cool, yellow-green eyes stare at me, pause, drip over keys, and suddenly, a letter I didn't choose appears. Every time I type, he nips my fingers. Gray, silver, black fur hangs in rivulets from a silky body. He bats expertly at bits of paper piled on the desk, fluid tail effectively covering a third of the keyboard. How can I write a poem, Shadow, if you interfere in this way? I have a hard enough time thinking without fighting your insistence that you come first. Damn your interference. Just when I have a good phrase sneaking out of the crevice in my mind, you chase the pen around. Off it falls on the floor, whatever the choice words were. Now they are gone. Perhaps if I run, I can catch them. So I like to write about birds. I have bird feeders in my backyard, and I do write a lot of poems about birds. Now, some of these you may have heard before. I also like to write about natural, moment-in-time things. This one I believe I have read. It's called Quail Visitors. A covey of California quail wander around my garden daily, regular guests drawn by seed spilled from my feeder, when arrogant Mr. J dive bombs, making it sway. There must be 20 or more sleek birds with bobbing top knots. No babies in October, only black feathered beauties, springy curls bobbing in sync. Such a jumble they provide all over the garden floor. Dip and sway, run and flap. They practice for a dance. I try to document their energy forever. Stand quietly, lurk, phone in hand, inside the patio slider, stock still waiting. When I move to open the screen or just creep forward a few inches, the entire flock reacts as one. Wings beat and whir, rhythmic, regular. They rise, disappear en masse, over the green wrought iron fence, up the brushy hillside. I try to snap pictures, attempt to record their flight, hope to keep a video clip. But when I check, all I can see, a few dark shadows, hidden between the roses or under the table. Only memory captures their presence. This is one of the earliest, I think it's the earliest poem that I'm going to read tonight, and it was written when I was still working here in Ventura. I wanted to let you know that the area that is discussed here, imagine the beach to the left of the pier. I've never been in this place at that time, but this is what I imagined. And it's called First Light. We watch the day dawn from bluffs above the shore. Pale disk of sun pushes over horizon, and slowly we inhale the mist-filled air, hear skittering shorebirds through haze, early morning darkness. The deserted beach teems with life, if not people. At water's edge, tracks crisscross wet sand. Shadows mottle the bristle of grass, seaweed piles, piers, tall sentinel pilings stand silently watching. Far down the beach, a small figure with dog, silhouette black against morning light. But for him, we sit alone with the rising sun. Waves lap at the water's edge, erasing human signs. It lasts a moment, then sun floods, and shadows disappeared from little crags, replaced by shiny pools of seawater, discarded by the departing tide. First Light's magic lost until another day. This is another bird poem. Cooper's Hawk. A Cooper's hawk settled on the fence outside my window, too near the bird feeder for my comfort. He perched like a living shadow on the wrought iron post, so I could really see him, even his darting eyes. Of course, I know why he visits me, makes himself at home on my tree or on the block wall. He is waiting patiently. I know it is the way of nature. Makes himself he is a bird of prey, and my finches, towhees, and juncos are why he waits. With a sudden, quick moment, he spreads powerful wings and disappears high above the brush. Slowly, the birds creep back. They are safe for now. This time, he took no prisoners. Another time, perhaps he will rise with the morning dove in his talons. Two Thanksgivings ago, my family met up in Santa Margarita at a little house. And in the backyard, there was a fire pit, and it was cold. I mean, it was like 35 degrees at night. But we decided we had to have a fire. So we bundled up, and my son and my son-in-law built this blazing fire. And this is called It's Something About a Bonfire. There's something haunting in the way flames dance and spin, always shifting, never still. In silence, each one in reverie contemplates hissing, crackling darts of orange, yellow against black sky. Fire toasts our faces. Our breath forms frosty mist, always shifting, never still. In time, fire dies to embers. Once mighty bonfire wanes, it is late, we are cold. One of the techniques I've used for writing is to remember a specific instance and then make a picture in my mind and write from that. I've done this for years. Also, if I write stories. This is from my childhood, and it's called Fresh Challah. Chicago winter, harsh wind bruising my knees. Hurry, hurry, it's almost time for the first bell. Nearly there now, only another block. Oh, that lovely fragrance again, always. Just here, as I pass Kaufman's back door, it taunts me, makes me want to stop, drink in the heavenly odor wafting past me, even though freezing wind bites my legs. Cannot stop now. I'll be late for school. Smell of bread baking in early morning, nearly irresistible. Better than cake or candy any time of day. Smooth braided challah, eggy and mellow, baked brown, sprinkled with poppy seeds, slathered with sweet butter, topped with dollops of black raspberry jam. Even if I stop, buy one on the way home, nothing can taste as good as it smells now. That enchanting breeze escaping offers a promise it simply cannot fulfill. This is a short one, and it's kind of a little, I guess you'd call it an autobiography, and it's called I Am. From mid-century, sprung up and flowered, now on the wane, but still a presence. An iceberg, 10% showing, the rest protecting the whole, sharing a fraction. Songster, nurturer, lover of leaving, refugee from the 60s, today planted in fertile soil, living these last years in sunshine. Poetry, my honesty, singing, my comfort. Sum of all experience, inane, profound, in a world seldom understood but always respected. I await ultimate reckoning. Until that day comes, I persevere. I think most of you know that I'm a widow, that I lost my husband 14 years ago. I do write love poems, not a lot of them, and they're almost always about my husband, because I've had other loves, but they're so old I can't remember. So this one is called Rose Garden Dreams. It was written as we were supposed to write a poem about a dream. And this is a dream I've had a number of times. Rose Garden Dreams. On a bench, a rose garden, one Sunday in May, perfume of sweet memory wafts on clear air. To the north, one can see the San Gabriels rising, jagged and black, a backdrop of hills. It must be the second Sunday today. We always came to honor this time. Descanso Gardens, my favorite place. You said it was my day to do as I wished. Always a garden we chose. Each Mother's Day Sunday, the second in May, we visited many throughout our years, but Descanso remained my garden of choice. I sit, I wait, and just about now I see you in shadow along the curved path. You sit down beside me, your hand on my arm. We whisper together of roses and love. You seem serene sitting near on this bench, as if it were only a day since our parting. In fact, nearly 14 years have passed since that August day I laid you to rest. If I could just one more live this moment, but sadly, it only comes back in my dreams. So now, your son, Danny, has picked up the gauntlet and stands in your place bright Sundays each May. One more love poem. It's called What I Did Not Hear Today. I didn't hear you sing, but then you never sang. I didn't hear your heart cry, but then you rarely cried. I didn't hear you whisper, I love you, but you told me that every morning. I didn't hear your voice at all, though I listened and listened. I didn't hear the depth of your pain. It ended the day you left us. I didn't hear the words of love we shared, though often I say them to the empty air. I didn't hear you at all today until our son called, and you were there. This is written sort of as a tribute to Jackson Wheeler's Ars Pacifica, and it has the same title as his, Because I am the child of children of immigrants, because I was a child of World War II, because my father was too old to serve, because I lived a childhood of privilege, because my parents were enlightened and progressive, because my early life filled with music and words. Because when I was 10, my mother pulled me from school to support Grandma Yeva in Miami Beach. Because I fell hopelessly in love with Mr. Van Fleet, my 5th grade teacher at North Beach Elementary School there. Because I bought my mother a gaudy rhinestone bracelet on Collins Road, finding it in her dresser drawer after her death. Because I always felt apart from others. Because my oldest brother tried to be a second father to me. Because at 13, I needed to leave the Jewish ghetto where I grew up, strike out for wider pastures. Because my husband died young and left me alone, bereft. For these reasons, and 1,000 more, I am a poet. I have a story to tell. I remember. And after I remember, I imagine, invent, change. Just 2 more. This one is actually kind of an interesting thing. In Ellen's class, she read a poem, and she asked us to take words from that poem and write a poem. And some of the words in this poem were pretty weird. But actually, I really like this poem that came out of it. It's called Stages of Remembrance. In midnight blue memory of morning tea kettle whistle, blends with bacon frying, cat life self-assurance of early childhood. Dig a hole in hidden crevices on the north face of our bungalow. A handful of loam slips through my fingers, perfect place for lily of the valley to grow. Gray steep shade with tiny white bells, fragrance haunting. Skipping rope baton twirl takes me back to camp in pine-scented forest. New adventure, hearing wind whistle through branches swaying. Honesty of North Michigan woods. Brass choir, solemn on Sunday mornings. Rush of water over rocks in a hidden stream deep in pines, far away from her rustic cabin. Final rays of sun turn dunes a delicate shade of copper, gold, rose as it sinks into Traverse Bay. Years of choice follow, acceptance of every day. Baby powder soft, little bottoms want washing. Early spring grasses sprout with rain. We stroll up brush-covered hills, softness of your suede jacket, dark, ragged fringe knotted at end. Judgment reigns when perhaps we'd rather play. Work takes time, but mouths need feeding, rent needs paying. Always the long sight prevails. Now, compassion takes a vow. Microwave beeps as I type. Words tell the tale of my before and now. I prefer fresh pink grapefruit, beguiling smell of French press coffee to bitter herbs of loss and regret. I contemplate the vista of my life. Silky fur of shadow cat, he rubs his head against my knee. So, several of you may know I have a crazy brother. I mean, he's crazy as a loon. He lives in Vermont. I've written several poems about him, but this is by far my favorite, and I thought we ought to end this on a little bit of a funny note.
I love him already.
You would like him. This is called Happening in Albertsons, and this actually happened. It's absolutely dead true. My brother Jerry, a crazy socialist, lives in Vermont, retired recently. A sociology professor, small Eastern school, so left of center he thinks Bernie is a fascist. He visits me regularly in California, loves the weather and his sister. I took him to the local Albertsons to shop, our boring bourgeois supermarket. He stood motionless in serious thought in front of the cash registers, the place bustling, People with full grocery carts jostling each other, the frenzy of Thanksgiving time. Suddenly, he threw up his arms, long Karl Marxist hair tumbling around his face, and shouted, "This is not the way it was when we were in Russia." At 90 decibels or more, the whole store stared. Then I wished for a body-sized hole to whisk me away to another universe. Today, when I remember, I laugh, appreciate his passion, his craziness. Thank you.